Uh, All right, I'm calling the meeting to order, September 3rd, 2024. Good question. I don't recall. Why do you?
I think it was because there was a delay or a mix-up in the notification of others.
I think it might be on there should be like a little paper on it. It should tell you.
Okay.
Right. But my question was, when you had the public hearing the first time, did the board discuss the application?
Did I remember us provisionally approving
Okay,
it?
so it's just
pending
simply receipt of this and acknowledgement that there's been no further comment from the public.
Right. That and also I don't think anybody had any other comments or questions. But we haven't voted on it.
Yeah, so we just need to take a vote to finalize the approval.
Right.
So,
Okay. So, do I have a motion concerning the application? Well, first of all, I guess for the record, we have in fact received the certified mail receipts. And we are now ready to close out this application. So do I have a motion concerning this application?
I will make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
Okay, we'll start with Kate. Your vote?
Aye.
Your vote? Aye. I vote aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Todd?
You're muted.
Thumbs up?
It's
a legally binding vote.
Okay, it's approved. Okay.
So now, this is the second public hearing.
Okay, so with that, we now go to 5 Furnace Street. For the people who have never sat through one of our public hearings, the applicant will give a presentation on the application. Please wait until he's finished. At the end of it, we will open it to comments from the public, comment and questions from the public. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, James.
Great, thank you. Jay's going to be presenting with me. Pinhun is going to pull up our presentation for everyone.
Can you hear us? Oh, I do have thumb drive.
You know what?
Is the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I get a permission to share? Oh yeah, now.
Thank you. So for the ease of talking, we just took just simple images from our submission just to able to walk us through more smoothly. And so you want to go ahead?
Sure, yeah. So just location map, you know where we live on Furnace Street, just off of Main Street within the National Historic District. Okay.
Next, please.
Okay, so this is the first floor plan. It's a very simple house. It's about 1,300 square feet total, currently 1,100, something like that. It's small. It's co-joined to the neighboring house, number 3 Furnace Street. You can see in this image that it's really on the ground floor. We're proposing to only enclose the existing rear porch that's kind of highlighted in blue there. No other changes to that floor.
Next, please.
Okay, and this is the existing condition on the second floor. You can see it's just that very small square at the front, which is basically comprised of 2 very small bedrooms and a basically a large hallway there. and stairs connecting the two. Then the long flat sloping roof at the rear, which is over the kitchen and a ground, first floor kind of office built room, home office. Next, please. And so our proposal is to add a primary suite to the second story building over the first floor roof space, and with a little bit of a projection over the steps that go up to the stoop down below. And it's basically adding a bathroom to the second floor that doesn't exist currently, and a third bedroom, and then a wall of closets. Looking at the roof, you can see we're working, and all the way to the right, you can see the standing seam metal roof. It's a zinc roof that's currently on there, a slate roof, and then we're proposing at the middle connector to use the zinc again as a linking element, and then a flat roof area, which is nominally pitched. That's what that kind of V is indicating is the direction of pitch for that. We're showing some skylights up there, but it's up on the flat portion of the roof above, really. So looking at the side elevation, we realized that in our earlier kind of workshop meetings that we were showing a perspective that kind of over exaggerated the 1 point perspective, really gave a very strong kind of fisheye image to this. So we're thinking that a clearer image of this is to look really at an elevation. In the background, you can see kind of ghosted in the side of the adjoined house and how large their addition is relative to ours. Well, at the second story.
Well, I'm sorry, Pinhan, going back to that image, and in our earlier design iterations, we tried extruding that same volume of our neighbors, and it was just overpowering. Okay, go ahead. Next slide, please. And so we tried a more contemporary approach, breaking down the volumes, the scale, and trying a contemporary approach we feel that it's more appropriate of this era. And so there is a transitional piece that is covering our added bathroom. And then to the left, we have a classic cube over our enclosed sunroom. Now, we are not showing the hatch of the slate that's going to be proposed we just decided to take that hatch out because in a computer world, it just looked like CMU, and we didn't want to convey that. But the cube is going to be covered with gray slate.
I think one thing too is to note something that Lauren, you had brought up was that kind of leaving the palimpsest of the sloping kind of 1950s era roof as a reference to that. And that was a conversation that came up again in our last workshop, and we came around to it. I think it's a good way to reflect both the continuing history of the house, but also to kind of play with those volumes.
Yeah, in our past study, we thought that was difficult to achieve for some reason, but we went and looked at the details, and we thought actually the way the connecting piece sets back a little bit gives us an opportunity to run our gutter along that sloped trim line.
Okay, next please. So this is now it rendered out, and so it does get much denser with the kind of the inclusion of the materials. But I think with it, the texture is more indicative of what could be going on. Again, doing in black and white just so that the colors are not a distraction in the conversation, but to really focus on the form.
Right, and the color, I think, is the only color that's here is really our existing blue siding, which has patinaed over years, and it was hard to accurately depict that in the computer world without making it look wonky. So we just said, okay, let's look at it in black and white. And the additions that we're proposing are all gray anyway, tones of gray.
Next. So kind of you know, peeling it back to where we started. This is actually, I think, I think you can see my arm or the arm of the inspector when we were buying the house. You can see how far, you know, we've taken it. It was in pretty rough shape. There were enough elements on the porch, which is not original to the structure. The house is at least from 1837 from some written documents that we have, but the porch is probably circa about 1870. So we reconstructed the porch based on those elements that were visible and by peeling through the asphalt siding.
We wanted to show you the evolution of the work that has been done on the house and our next door neighbor as well.
So this is in process. I've rebuilt the porch at that point. I've done the front facade, and I'm just starting into this side as we could afford to move on. Yeah, just the fence that's there now is slightly modified from multiple collisions from the neighbors pulling into the driveway.
So we'll come back to you for the fences, but we'll be
that was approved back then.
Oh, okay. So we're just restructuring, yeah, rebuilding the fence. Okay. So, all right, next, please. And so this progress as money allowed, we the siding and window replacement on the side.
Rebuilt the chimney, a lot of stuff. So
got a new roof, slate roof.
Okay, next. And this is, I think, just as we're starting into the neighbors. So we designed the restoration of that as well.
Next. So that's how it stands today. And then next slide, please. So we also wanted to show you what that our neighbor's side looked like before renovation, but as well as the proportion of the addition. What works well on this side is all the ins and outs and the public view of this elevation. So, Pinhana, if you go to the next one, you can see that these different elements work out well from where it's visible on the street.
And in spite of all the different approaches that have been taken over the years and doing the second story addition, again, ours is the only one that doesn't have anything like that at the second story rear. This is, I think, the only one that really articulates the volume of the original and kind of steps back to create that differentiation. And you can see how, in spite of that rear being a very large mass, it really kind of scales it down by that step back and kind of receding into the background. So it's an approach that we appreciated for our design, but we don't have as wide of a lot as they do. And remember, their house actually steps onto our property 2 feet to help make that step back work so well. So we don't have the luxury of space. So so that's why we've come up with kind of articulating it more in materials and pitching the roof slightly to create that more diminutive kind of relationship from in that transition at the middle and then to the later volume.
Next, please. So that's our current condition, and yeah, the siding has patinaed a lot, which we love. Actually, we think that it will go well with the gray addition.
And so here you can just see highlighted in blue kind of the area that we're proposing, again, the massing. Just skip ahead. And then a 3D model of the volume back behind. And then
back to our elevation.
Yeah.
And so in this elevation, you can see how each volumes relate to the massing behind it.
And we think that it comes in like it's a different approach, but a similar kind of effect as our co-joined neighbor's house, enjoys.
And as we discussed during our workshop, we are limiting to the materials that are already on the building. So the connector piece that is the same material as the front porch roof. And then the slate is the same material but different color to mute it down to make it more gray. The slate roof we have on top of our the historic portion of the house is now being expressed on the elevation.
Okay, next. And then just back to materials, just images of the same that we're talking about, standing seam metal, and in our case, we're proposing true natural zinc for the standing seam portion again, and then a slate siding material. It's a system so that it's secure and we don't have to worry about slates dropping at that steep angle. And images of the windows that we're proposing, that these are ones that have been installed in our house, and the kitchen window is visible from the front. That's the one with the muntins. The other two are actually in the back and aren't really visible from the street. But the same high performance triple pane windows that we get rear addition.
Next, please.
And then we've got a small Juliet balcony at the rear. It's really not visible from any way. It projects, I think, 18 inches out into the rear yard. Proposing a rigid metal frame with cable infill, and we're also proposing to replace our front door with an energy efficient door because that one leaks. The yellow door that you're seeing on the right is the door that we designed for High Street. It's a certified passive house door that is based on actually our current front door, which is what I bought from Habitat Restore in Newburgh for $35, and it's kind of more than done its service. But essentially the same proportions, not a change to the frame, and the same, lights that we've used there, as well as at Anna Pellizzeri's house on High Street. Okay, and then it's really hard to read from here, but just we had gone through the design standards and really feel that we are touching on and agreeing with the spirit of the design standards. The first one is know your building, and so I think we've demonstrated we know our building well and what the right responses are in adding to it, and kind of adding another chapter to the history of this building.
Next.
I'm gonna guess that I can read that.
This one I know. This one I know is the topic on the top of the page is non-contributing building. However, we thought that was also applicable to what we're doing as a contemporary addition.
Yeah. And that the rear is, while it's, the language may talk specifically about a non-contributing building, but interacting with the non-contributing kind of end of the building, we were proposing to do something that is in keeping with the spirit of this.
District as a living, evolving community. We greatly appreciated those words.
But also, it maintains the inherent character of the original portion, respecting that deeply, and I think also reflecting the transition, other periods in time, including that sloped portion of the roof. So it shows kind of the evolution of the house and its continuing kind of evolution.
Next, please.
Yeah, can we zoom in?
I'm trying to make it bigger. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, great, thanks. Okay, and so here, additions should not detract or compete with the primary building and scale placement style materials. So we're proposing a kind of a diminutive approach, keeping the volumes and material choices simple and kind of pure in form. And you know, and I think also relating to the proportions of that addition next door, and you know, reflecting kind of the evolution of that. The issue of the cantilever, and I think while it's stating cantilevers are something not, you know, encouraged, generally discouraged, I wouldn't say is a show-stopping kind of wording of that approach. I mean, I think under the right circumstances, it is justifiable. And I think ours with a tiny lot and the requirement to comply with zoning is one of those mitigating situations.
In fact, when we try to extrude our neighbor's roof line and the portion that was cantilevering over our step, that looked goofy, you know, so that looked more out of place than what we're trying to do with contemporary vocabulary.
We've also brought the volume, you know, like in that kind of exercise that, you know, basically extruding that side profile. We chose not to, in our final proposal, not to extend it out. So we're keeping with the back of our existing house, which is 18 inches in from the very back. We actually have zoning approval to go that 18 inches off the back, but we chose not to because we're trying to keep it reasonable. So, you know, the roof volumes are, you know, minimal. There's nothing excessive, and, you know, kind of building the volumes out to a grander scale.
Do we need to go back to the elevation view to review what we just said?
Well, you finished with the presentation, right?
Yeah. Well, I think one or two slides and then
one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Just
Yeah. And you know, and so you know, about the hierarchy of primary versus secondary facades, and historic volumes versus new construction or additions, as stated here. So this is, I think we're clearly working with that hierarchy and respecting that, and contributing in kind.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll toss it open to the public. So do we have any comments from the public? Do you state your name and where do you
I'm Michael Armstrong. I live at 7 Morris Avenue, Cold Spring. And I I think their proposal is an excellent one. I think it's very difficult to modify older homes to accommodate, adapt to family needs. And I think this is an imaginative approach that is sensitive to the historic fabric of that area, which is actually very complex. It's the worker housing that has been adapted over more than a century, 150 years, to accommodate changes in families and needs. And you see that in all of those buildings. Every single building, I think, on Furnace reflects that. And I think this handles it in a very inobtrusive and sensitive way, and allows the historic fabric to dominate the way the house presents to the street. So I think this is a good approach. I think it's a very good approach, and I would support it.
Thank you.
On laptop.
You're the public right now.
You are actually a neighbor, according to the tax law. You are a neighbor.
I actually think that the approach of what they've done is very nice. I think the contemporary, along with the older part of the house, I think the blend is very nice. And it's a nice improvement on the street, which is actually right across from where I am. So I'm actually very happy with their plan.
Thank you. Okay, with that, since
We have a
letter. Okay, go ahead.
So this is a letter from Noah Reese and Peter Devitt, who live at 3 Furnace Street. And it says, "Hi all, to whom it may concern. I, along with my partner Peter Devitt, live next door to the Hartfords in 3 Furnace Street. We are aware of their intention to renovate a portion of their home and want to be clear that we are fully supportive of this project. We recently sat down with James and Juhi to go through the project with them and learn more about the details and ask questions. We left the meeting fully confident in their ability to create an addition to their home that will not only preserve the historical and unique nature of our town and street, but also add value through creative design and climate-conscious construction techniques. James and Juhi are talented experts in the field of architecture, and we'd be delighted to have this new addition become part of the 3-5 Furnace Street housing block. We sincerely wish you will join us in support for this important project and are happy to provide any other commentary necessary to convey our support. Wishing you all the best. Oh, that's Reese and Peter Davitt.
As far as correspondence goes?
That is the only written comment as far as I know, right? Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we will now, I'll open it up to board members for their questions and comments.
Shall we ask Todd to go first?
I'll start, sure. Yeah, I feel really good about this. It's not so far departed from where we started on workshops a few months ago, but I think that all of these meetings have been really productive, and just these last couple little tweaks, especially with the roof line and that connecting portion, I think it kind of just made it all work for me. So I feel really good about where we are with this. No questions.
I agree with Todd. I think that the things from the original drawings that we saw that stood out as being a little jarring. I don't want to say alarming, but I think those modifications were all made without really sacrificing the intention of the design. And I feel that now all of the appropriate steps have been made to make it much more set back from the historic volume. I think restoring the slope of the kitchen addition to the elevation helps more. I think doing that on some of the earlier drawings would have looked funny when that wall was still not flush. But I think now it's really appropriate, and it does look like a fully separate outline of the historic volume. So I also think the limited material palette really helps the application as well, particularly pulling the two materials that are already used elsewhere on the building. So while it is not something we may ever see proposed for another building in the village, I think in this instance it works well, and it doesn't, it provides an opportunity for contemporary architecture that's not in conflict with the historic building. So I find it to be a successful combination of the two.
Okay. Lauren, you're up.
Can I just confirm the material of the cladding on the new part below the cantilever? That wood to match the
Well, we went back and forth, and we said if we're going to break into something new, then it should be a insulated metal panel, just a flat.
Can you go back to that?
Where you were? Yeah. Yeah. So that portion. Yeah.
So it's really the only portion that we're talking about then is this right here. So this is obviously glass. This is the existing wall that's beyond. So that's just there. And this is that one little bit that would be
painted metal.
I thank you for retaining that 1950s slope. I really do think this vastly improves the design, because it really kind of Tetrises in and is more subservient rather than a removal.
Right. Yeah.
Really, this building now stands apart as it is today. I also appreciate the darker colors.
It took a while for me to
I also appreciate the darker colors and choices material. Also just making that kind of go into the background, even though it's a strong volume. I think that works. And I do also appreciate this new connecting piece that was part of a workshop, an earlier workshop, being on a slope and going backwards. So I think that this is respectful of the various additions and history thus far of the historic building, and this is building on something for the now. So I appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm still having a hard time with the building. I think you've done so much with this renovation to date, and it's beautiful. I know your hands have touched everything. And I also appreciate the workshops that we've had, and I do think the building is more refined. However, I think some of the code that you, or the guidelines that you've highlighted, we're just far from complying with those, and it feels uncomfortable. You know, for example, the materiality, having the standing seam on the side or the slate on the side, or the volumetric proportions, or the you know, the cube not being deferential to the main building from the street frontage. There's a number of things that I feel like are the addition isn't complying to the guidelines, and it feels unfair to set a precedent that will ignore the multiple examples of this building breaking what the guidelines suggest. So I might be an outlier, but.
Okay. This application was quite startling to begin with. However, the concept of additions being built in the style of its time is well established in historic preservation and construction. My only concern really was typically when that happens, the addition needs to somehow relate to either the district or the building itself. And I think that the final product, or the product of all of our work sessions, you've actually done that. I think that you use materials which are common to the district, and I think that overall the whole assembly kind of pulled together into an elegant design. So with that, does anybody have any other questions before we take a vote?
I think I would just, oh, yes, Todd.
Oh, no, I just said no questions.
I think just as far as the discussion of precedent is concerned, you know, there is a reason why our guidelines, you know, why we review everything on a case-by-case basis, and why our guidelines do allow for some flexibility, because not every situation could necessarily refer to every property and application that comes before us. So I'm not concerned necessarily that approving this application as drawn opens the door to you know, any number of like wildly non-compliant designs, because I think the reason why this application is being approved is very specific to this property, and the, as Al said, the materials that are being used, the lot itself, the maintenance of the historic structure, not just from the primary facade, which is the street, but also from the sort of secondary facade, which is this view that we're looking at. So I understand that it is that there are divergences from the guidelines, but I don't think that this board would be making it irresponsible decision by approving this application because not, this doesn't necessarily open the door to the guidelines being tossed out. I think it's clear in our comments why we are allowing these variances based on this particular proposal.
My only comment on your comment is that I don't think that there are divergences from the guidelines. I think that it boils down to a question of how they complied with the guidelines. And I think the fact that it's a very modern structure, I think is fine, and it is basically or rather, it is an addition built of its time. So I have no problem with that. Okay, with that, we will now take a vote. We'll start with the disembodied voice on the screen. Todd, your vote?
Aye.
Is Todd making a motion to?
I will make the motion since the motion was not made. Yes, I make a motion to accept the application as submitted.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Okay. Todd, vote.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay.
That's even the correct term. Yeah, I think I'll be an outlier.
Sorry.
Is nay the correct term? Nay.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye, and I vote aye. So 4-1.
Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
all. Thank you for your very thoughtful deliberations.
Thank you.
I guess the Instagram will show us the true public vote.
Good luck.
Well, we allow those metrics to be used.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, and good luck with this.
Thanks, Manad.
Abigail, you emailed before. You're saying Forge Gate we're postponing until we hear back from the board. Is that right?
Yeah, because I spoke with not the applicant, but someone else, and she said the applicant was out sick and they're gonna await revision from the condominium
Just to
board.
confirm the condominium board. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how long that will take.
That's fine. We'll talk to him in October. So for Forge Gate.
Okay, right. So that brings us to 159, 161 Main Street. Come on down.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Appropriate changes.
Was all of this uploaded onto the website?
No.
Okay.
But I can do that.
Can you just email it to Todd if you haven't already?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Digital. This one more. No? I scan it. You want me to? I'm gonna take this and scan it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's image from Chris.
Yeah, we were both just gonna try to grab it. I don't have it printed. I don't know if it.
Oh, do you have it digitally? Why don't you email it to Todd and then he can share it? He can do a screenshot.
Oh, actually, Todd, you should have.
Are you on a real computer? Or are you on your phone?
No, I'm on a computer.
Okay.
Can you pull up that Chris image, the historic image that it was a 2-page PDF, that included a description of the property done in the 70s, and then it had a photo at the bottom right.
I will. Did you send that, Kate?
I think I ended up sending it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me.
I think it was the day after our last meeting. Let's see here, I'll forward it to you as soon as
Oh,
I find it.
It's called Main Street Court. Oh, wait, is it? No, just kidding. Weird, I feel like I looked at yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes. Used Chris for the first time. It was on the April, August 21st,
August 21st.
and it came from Kate, Village of Cold Spring Historic. Oh, it's in response to the agenda email from the 20th.
Oh, okay.
I'll forward you it now. So it's in the back of your inbox.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, no, that's not. Is it the PDF that
Yeah, it's the blue sheet.
blue sheet?
So I just sent you a copy. I just forwarded the email to you, and it's the PDF attachment. It's a 2-pager, and I think we're interested in the image at the
Okay.
bottom, first page.
Okay. Opening and share screen. We see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch it, yeah,
Zoom in on
right,
the
the
photo.
image.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
I think it's Todd.
Yeah.
Zooming.
Oh, you got it.
Is that what you guys want me to have it on?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we
Perfect.
maybe also, if we change the view in the top right and put Todd to the right of the screen, I think the image will be larger. So if you go to the top right, see how it says view in there and put everyone on the right. Yeah, try
Side by side gallery.
that, yeah.
Oh.
A little better.
A little bit. I mean, I can.
Not this.
Oh, dear. Gosh.
No, I think-
I'm looking, it's filling my whole screen, so I can't see.
Yeah, no, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay.
Okay. So what is new on these drawings from last time?
Well, basically, as you guys had discussed, it was too busy with the cornice up the top of it. And I think he had mentioned that it should be a little less busy. So we conformed it to where everything lined up, because the first one, they did not have all the corbels and everything lined up into the proper slots.
Okay, great. And are these just two of the same?
Yes.
No, well, the other one was different, and that's when we changed it to have it more lined up.
Oh,
But these are the same. This is the building as it is, and this is a now. That I want to do.
got two copies of the same.
Yeah,
That's fine.
right. All of his information's on one sheet.
Right.
All right, so, and you're applying for all of the information on the right that is new. Is that?
Well, I was applying
We
for,
can discuss as we go down.
okay,
All right, so the asphalt shingles, I don't think that that's any, you see you're replacing it in the same material.
correct.
Okay, painting does not affect, or we have no cognizance over it.
Correct.
All right, so the next thing is the new clad double hung windows with divided light.
And I've given you a sample of the windows. Wood clad.
Okay, it's an Anderson.
400.
Frame is white, or the frame is, or the window is black, right?
Yeah, exists.
Okay,
So
is a trim.
Is 400 vinyl over wood or aluminum over wood?
It is, I think, if they're vinyl over wood.
But it's not an extruded vinyl, it's a clad
Right.
vinyl clad wood rail.
Yes.
And the other thing that we were asking about was the detailing of the window trims themselves.
The trims are gonna be identical to what's on there. I'm just gonna put them in a composite, but they're gonna be the exact trim that is on the windows now. I'm not changing anything.
Okay.
Well,
Which
We're gonna take the rod off and put on new.
Right, but what's on the windows now, it looks like don't have aprons under the sills, and it looks like,
doesn't have a sill.
yeah,
They
a
don't.
sill or an apron.
I'm not putting a sill. I'm putting exactly what was there.
Okay, so then.
Well, it looks like on this drawing from the architect, they're given a they're
sill.
given a sill and an apron. The double line at the under the bottom sash.
Oh, what he did, he put, yeah, that's not gonna be, they're gonna be flat.
So there's not going to be a sill, but there will be an apron.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then we come down to the corbel, which was the initial. I mean, just looking at what had been there before, obviously, the corbel that was there before, it was in fact much more prominent than what is there now.
The cornice, you mean?
Yeah, or rather cornice.
Cornices.
So there were no, so it looks like before above the shop windows, there weren't any brackets at all. It was just a stepped
Right.
a series of flat pieces to make up the cornice. And what this is proposing is these brackets.
It's gonna give the building a little more detail without being too over the top.
Sure.
But I agreed with what you guys were saying before, so I toned it down.
So this is what the last time we met, these were not in any sort of pattern related to the window.
Which he should have put in the base.
So now we're basically having these panels are related to the windows and the brackets are just going in at the sort of posts of each window. And what's this line of little gold dots above? That
is just a small decorative piece that goes underneath. It's right at the top of them before the copper roof goes on.
But it's a piece of wood?
Yeah, they're wood. They're small.
Okay.
They're like dental molding.
Right, okay.
That runs all along.
Wasn't here at the last meeting, but did you guys talk about the proportions changing of blue and a lot of the flat
Yeah.
below that?
Yeah, that's why we did that.
That was
Yeah, well,
adding the roof.
that was basically the big point of contention is that obviously this cornice is much larger than what is there now. But I don't think what is there now is what's in the photograph.
What was did you review the historic photograph with your design team? I'm curious what your views are of the.
Yeah, we looked at this and we thought it's for this building being this big, we thought it was a little too subtle for the building and the storefronts. So by putting the cornice on, it's going to define the storefronts versus the apartments and it's gonna be a nice blend. It's historical. It gives the look that you guys are looking for, but it also enhances the building to look prettier than it is. It's kind of an ugly building.
Well, every building has, you know.
It's got its ugly points.
And it's a more.
And they keep coming out.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's a more austere building.
Yes, yes.
But did you guys also talk about 6/6 windows?
Yeah, well, we
Versus
talked
2
about
over
it.
2 or something
It's,
other than that?
right, originally extruded vinyl window was proposed, but,
I still have an argument about that though, because 70% of the buildings on the street are vinyl. And I'm having to put in a wood clad that's costing me almost $1,500 a window.
well, if there are extruded vinyl windows.
They're all over the town. They're all over Main Street.
Well, then they were installed without our permission.
Then I should have not come then because they're all over Main Street. I mean, you gotta go, listen, you gotta do everything for everybody within the same realm. If 80% of this place has vinyl windows in, and you're telling me I gotta put wood, that's a problem.
Well, I would disagree with the statistics that you're citing because I
You
have.
can go up and count them.
Okay.
You're gonna be surprised.
All right, my question to you is that how do you know whether something is vinyl clad as opposed to extruded vinyl?
Trust me, you know, but we can leave it as whatever way you want to say it. I'm just saying that's how all the windows were. Everybody just replaced them as they went.
A lot of the windows are vinyl clad wood windows. And that's because Anderson 400 is a very popular choice over the last couple of years.
It's really the cheapest choice I could find.
Could be.
And there's 42 windows up there.
But we think that it'll last you longer than.
There's all vinyl in it now. Every window in the building is vinyl except for the 4 windows.
Well, in the existing, yes. All right, good night.
Good night.
Well, as
It doesn't matter.
I think that the real topic at hand is this cornice over the
Right.
storefront, and unless you want to speak more to the grill patterns, Lauren, about the 6/6.
I was just curious to know if that was discussed at all. Because for this era of building it, it seems.
We did the same thing next door. Exact same thing next door. Building I did there.
Which building?
6/6, the one right next door with the 2 salons. 81 Main Street. I did 6/6 and it was approved.
No, the new tea shop, literally right next door.
You see the Knights of Columbus.
I mean, it is a different building. I think that building is older.
Did you see that building? It was a mess.
It looks
It
great.
was a mess. It
But
looked
I'm
really
saying,
good.
glad that
it
it
was
has
6/6 or not. I'm not asking for anything. I don't want to change the grids of the windows. I think they will look nice 6/6. It's going to look very clean. It's going to keep with the building.
Is it I do think that the number of them, seeing that many 6/6 windows all together on a facade it's a lot. It's a lot of line.
And for this era of building, would you, I mean, 2/2 would probably be more, right? Appropriate for the.
I think what did we end up advising for I don't think they did it, but across on the other side of the street for the old CNE building, we had a discussion about reducing the Munson pattern from being a 6/6 to a 2/2. Do you remember that, Todd?
The one next to Catherine's?
No, the one, the old hardware store building. I think we ultimately encouraged them to, they proposed a 6/6 and we encouraged them to reduce it to 2/2 for this reason, because it's sort of the volume of windows. and the
Yeah.
size of windows. It
was-
gives it more of a sort of quaint.
Are you saying just put a line through each upper half, 2/2 that way?
That's what, I don't want to speak for you. How do you feel about 2/2?
To me, I think that the Muntin pattern is not that critical. I think that obviously we're talking about windows that are not historic fabric that we're trying to save. And I think 2/2 would probably be appropriate. I think 6/6 is appropriate. 1/1 is not.
Which is what there is now. I think the 6/, to see this many 6/6 windows, again, my feeling is it's kind of telling the story about the building being a little bit more quaint than it really is. And I think it's the actual scale of the windows themselves. I mean, these are not cottage size residential windows. They're big, lovely apartment windows, you know? And I wonder whether a 2/2 pattern might help to kind of defussify the building at this scale.
Lauren's actually just to visualize sketched it in here on your existing facade, and I think maybe you'll let her show you. I think what everyone's saying without, I'm the type who'd want to go and research exactly what was
there.
and, you know, Lauren's gut, I trust, but here where she sent 2/2, it does
Right.
feel clean.
I mean, we
and
can
neat
do that. We can do that. If that's gonna work. It's
and
cheaper for me.
Elegant.
They charge me more for those grids, I hate to tell you.
We're trying to save you money.
See, right there.
There you go, trying to save me. But then you got me with $1,000 windows. Anyway, back to this.
I mean, my personal feeling is that I don't have a problem with this many windows being 6/6. I don't have any problem with this building 4/4. I think that ultimately, I don't have any problem with it either way. So if you feel 2/2 is better,
I do, very
Okay.
strongly.
then let's go with 2/2.
That's fine.
Okay.
So now we're down to the cornice.
So I don't dispute, you know, as drawn with the corrections we talked about last week, I don't dispute whether or not this is a attractive cornice. I mean, I think it relates to the storefront below. It's nice looking. The scale I think is quite bulky for compared to what was there previously. But were I to see this constructed, I don't think I would necessarily, it wouldn't jump out to me as being something that was wildly inappropriate or wildly out of scale. But having seen what was there before and having seen kind of what remains of it now, I mean, I don't want to have it be based just on my like personal feelings. I just happen to like the simpler design. I just think it looks nicer. So I guess my feeling is I don't think that this is inappropriate as far as new fabric is concerned, but I don't know whether it's the most appropriate based on what we know about the building.
Well,
Is that a non-answer? Is that a non?
Well, as far as we know, this is a historic cornice, right? A storefront cornice.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Well, as far as we know, but I mean, would you say that that is as, I mean, I guess it has more to,
Bulky is the one that.
it has more to do with what's happened to the storefronts below it, I think is what's
I
affecting.
agree. It gives it weight. The storefront below, right? The extra ribbon, sort of solid stock with the trim above and below really holds the cornice and gives the existing weight.
Because all the clear story windows are also filled in. So you have,
which was not part of the original building anyway.
right, so in this,
Because it had
in this
transoms.
photo from the seventies,
Sorry, the photo.
There's transoms that are there.
yeah,
above
oh,
those
sorry,
windows.
all those
That I
transom
put
windows above the storefronts are all filled in. So like where the insurance sign is
That
on a
way.
panel that's.
Originally, it wasn't like that.
That's, so I think to your point, Kate, saying what this image fails to tell us is how that cornice would look with open
Yeah.
transom windows,
Yeah.
because it's filled in with.
Yeah, that
A
and
solid
also,
panel.
we don't really know how original that entire assembly is.
Oh, when I opened the inside, they were there. That originally had the transoms up above it.
Yeah,
It was
the
a-
glass, the glass as opposed to the.
Yes.
slide.
Like the windows, I think as things would get busted, they kept shrinking the windows. That storefront's windows were all like this.
Well, also probably too with adding drop ceilings and
Well,
things.
it's also expensive. You buy a one plate glass window, it's a lot of money. So they probably saved by putting in small windows, which look like crap for that area.
I mean, my feeling is that, I think that the cornice sort of separates the commercial part from the residential part. Becomes a bracket in which the commercial windows, are essentially emphasized. It gives a little more
Separation.
presence for the first one.
You're saying this cornice as drawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, not the existing one.
Right. Well, and I mean, the existing cornice, I think, is too inconsequential.
Really? The existing one?
Yeah.
To be a design driver for the restoration.
Yeah, I think that this winds up being an improvement because it gives the commercial the commercial windows a little bit more of a presence.
And the separation from the apartment building. Yeah, again, I mean, like I said before, I don't think that this is like wrong architecture. I don't think that this cornice is like, I mean, I don't think it is something that would jump out to me as being something that was wildly inappropriate.
And I think
But the only thing that we do know is that this is already there. So we know that this is there. So whether it's how original it is or not, we know that it exists. And do we build on what's already there to try to carry that through, or do we create something which maybe balances out the entire building as a whole a little bit more effectively, which is what Alice said. And I feel a little bit, I could be convinced either way. So.
I'm trying to virtually walk down Main Street while we're talking.
Are you counting the vinyl windows?
No, oh God, I'll leave that to
Start
someone
counting,
else.
I'm telling you.
Just to see how the transoms were dealt with, I was thinking specifically of reservoir with the.
Yeah, so that has like the prism glass in it, and and then there's the Palin's drugstore sign, which is the painted glass transom. I know I can think of loads that are filled in. The cheese shop, theirs is filled in. The cold start has been filled in. And that one is actually a real shame because it really disrupts the cornice above it. General store is a totally different design. What about what about like the building current is in, which is kind of diagonal across the street from it? Take a shot.
So can I just ask, like what your Like, are you trying to make an aesthetic that you prefer, or is this like
I've been,
a water issue, or like
no,
what?
I've been restoring buildings for 25 years. In doing that, I look at a building and I see what I want to do. And me and my team create what we want to do, like we did next door. If I put this up and I don't like the way it looks or something, I'll be the first person to take it down. It's something that I came into this town to restore some of the buildings and beautify them back to the way they were. I feel I'm trying to keep within the guidelines of your town, but some of it, you know, we have to work back and forth so that we all agree to have it done. But if I find in the end, I put this piece up and I start not to like it, I'll have that other piece put right back on. It's not like it has to look good to me, and I have to be proud of what I own. And right now, I'm not proud of that building. But it's going to be an amazing building when it's done. And with everything done in it, it should come out very nicely.
I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that it's not us who design the application. We just decide whether it's appropriate.
I was just curious to see if this is in fact the original cornice, removing it and replacing it with something else would not be returning it to the original.
I don't think it's the original. But just because something in a town, just because a building may have something that was originally there doesn't make it that it's good. I've seen a lot of buildings that have been constructed where they've had some pretty odd stuff on them, and because they're old, not necessarily makes it good. You can improve something and enhance it, but still stick within the guidelines of what you want to do. But if it's going to make the building a prettier, handsomer building and not do anything but, make it look great for the town, I don't think that's an issue. It's if there's a lot of buildings here that I'm looking at as I walk up and down the street. Some of their architectural stuff is a mess.
Well,
But they're old.
we're bound to a commitment to preserve
No, I get it.
historic fabric. So even if it's
But some of them
even if it's
really
less than beautiful,
probably need a little facelift.
I think sometimes it's okay if an old building is less beautiful. It might make their neighbors more beautiful, but it contextualizes and grounds you in that history. So I'm okay with that. And I don't think you have an ugly building. I think it can be a really beautiful building.
It's a building that needs to be done over.
Yeah, it needs
And
to.
it has needed it for many years.
Yeah, it's true.
It'll look great with the new windows, and it looks great with the.
Yeah, just the bottom, just opening everything up and putting the glass and putting the transoms made the building pop, where people would drive by and never even notice it. And now people are actually coming up to me, talking to me, saying, thank you for doing that.
I'm sure asking about the signs in your window. And
Huh?
I'm sure you have some storekeepers asking about those
Oh, yeah,
spaces down
that
there.
too.
Yeah.
Well, one of them's rented already.
Oh,
It's the museum. What is it? Right?
Manitoba.
Yeah, Manitoba.
oh, that's great.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
for a office space or for a public space?
No, they're gonna actually sell. They're gonna sell their pottery in it.
Oh, how interesting.
And probably it's gonna be an offshoot of their museum to get people to go to it, but they're gonna sell their pottery there.
So, we can proceed with the windows, but I guess I'd like to, what does the board want to do as far as the cornice?
My instinct is to, if there is existing historic fabric, that it should be
Maintained.
That is my opinion.
I think I'm on board with that. I appreciate that maybe some additional flourish is needed, and we don't know the history, we don't know what's missing in that zone. But it does feel like it needs a bit more without it being.
It needs a midway point between what is there and what is
I
proposed.
think is what you were.
Todd?
Yeah, I can't, I mean, my initial inclination is generally in agreement with the comments that were just made. I can't see what the newer application from today is, so I can't really contribute much other than I thought, the last time we talked, there were some revisions, some edits that were going to happen that did seem like they were going to be in the right direction. But I can't see what's there now, so I can't really comment.
I'm not gonna give you any excuses. I'm sending them to you right now.
Yeah, it's the major change from last time, if the drawings are still on the website from last week, is the rhythm of the brackets relating to the posts in between the storefront windows. So the scale and everything remains the same. It's just the actual pacing of it.
Okay.
All right, like a halfway choice, and I guess would you be amenable to changing the configuration of the corners that you're proposing?
I've already cut them back from the last plan. We brought them back. We made them smaller.
Talking about from
the first plan, we made them smaller.
Yeah.
And then we actually took out some of the details, I think, and that's why we just had them with the squares in front of them. And I was going to paint it solid so that it would be more blended in with the building, instead of doing more of the defined painting, which may not be so good. I kind of agreed with that.
Oh, yeah. So previously they were 2.9 and now they're
Right.
1'10". Sorry, Todd. Sorry, Todd. There were two changes.
And the color would actually soften the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's an asphalt or whatever it is up there that's actually leaking.
I know we also can't, dictate paint color, but that was one of the things that was talked about last week or last
And
time.
I agreed with that. I think you were right with saying it was too busy to make it look more uniform. So that's why we went with just pretty much blending it in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna break this up into two parts. So far, the two parts is the residential area is what we're talking about is what is presented except for the window muntin pattern going to 2x2.
Yeah.
2/2.
2/2. Do I have a motion?
And removing the sills.
Right.
No sill.
No sill and 2/2 muntin pattern. Do I have a motion for that?
Well, and also the hardy board.
Oh, yeah.
In lieu of the asphalt.
In case I do it. It won't be for a while.
Hardy board.
So we should, if we're dividing it, then it really should be that it's the asphalt shingles, which we've already talked about,
Yeah.
which is a linear change. The windows, based on the spec sheet provided, the change being that they are 2/2 instead of 6/6, and they will not have sills. They will only have aprons. We should also be approving or also voting on the new AZAC trim for the windows and new hardy board siding to replace the existing asbestos siding.
But when the electricians were putting all new meters on the building, we wound up, they had to break a piece of that asbestos to do it. And there is clapboard under it.
Really?
So
how's it look?
But I've done other houses where I peeled off aluminum siding and stuff. We found the clapboard and we were able to save it and then do that. So I would like that option with that hardy board. If I can save the clapboard that is under it, I would keep that. If that can.
Yeah, I think I think what we would say on the drawing is that we are approving the removal of the existing siding. And we are approving the addition of hardy board. But if you remove the existing siding and wood remains, it can remain wood. Is that correct?
Or we can say new hardy board siding or
Original siding under.
existing plywood.
Yeah, because I mean, you mean even if it's in great shape, you're still going to be having to add new clapboards to it, I'm sure.
I always do, yes.
So we would say either.
Restoration.
So we're approving either wood or hardy board.
Right. Okay, do I have a second for that motion?
Who first did it? Did I do it?
Yeah.
I made the motion? Oh, okay. I make the motion as modified.
Okay, Todd, your vote. Okay.
Aye.
I vote aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, so that's the outward part. But now what we have to do is discuss the cornice. My feeling is that I still this is what the applicant wants to do with this building. We have to make a determination whether or not we feel it's appropriate in accordance with the district guidelines. So,
So the scale of the proposed cornice has been reduced. It's no longer 2'4". Is that?
Yeah, we brought them down and we changed the design not to be so busy on the cornice.
No, the 2'4" is the active proposal. It was reduced from 2'6".
Oh,
how about
And then the brackets were reduced from 2'9" to 1'10",
okay.
which I guess means that band must have been reduced as well because because previously the brackets overhung the bottom of the cornice.
Oh, okay.
okay, your feeling about the cornice.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think you're asking about specifically the new proposed, right? Not sort of the hybrid of if we maintain the existing, I think we're going in circles a bit, but maintaining the existing fabric seems like something we would want to do. We wouldn't remove the start of anew unless we need to, but I appreciate it. Want a little more detailing, and so is there an opportunity to add some additional detailing to the existing, or is that just splitting hairs? And I should.
Well, no, I think that ultimately we're looking for something that we can both live with. I guess what is the top of the existing one? It looks flat from here.
It isn't flat. You mean the top of this piece over here? It has a slope. I think it's.
No, I'm talking about the existing, not proposed.
Yeah, the existing, he said, has an asphalt.
Yeah, it has like an asphalt. I'm not even sure what's up there. I think there's an asphalt shingle and some of them have come off, so it's leaking on the corner of the building. But there's definitely something, that's where I was going to be doing the copper, was over that spot instead of having that. and the patina would actually, as it would age.
Right. Which I think, I don't think having a copper roof in lieu of asphalt shingle is inappropriate, keeping the corner. I mean, if the cornice were to be kept exactly the way it is and the roof were to be replaced with copper, I would not be opposed to that at all. I think it's obviously more durable and more secure material to prevent the whole thing from rotting from the inside. So that is not an issue that I have a problem with. It's, you know, I mean, I think just the major adjustment is moving from this very linear, these very linear bands to these more isolated sort of panels accented by the brackets. And whether the brackets are all painted out in one color or whether they're painted contrast, they're still breaking up this very linear cornice, which we had before.
Okay.
But again, I'm not saying that what is proposed is inappropriate. I'm just saying that I think that there could be a more appropriate alternative. But that would not mean that I think that I could approve what is proposed in good conscience, even if I would prefer the design to be more in line with what we know is existing.
Okay, I mean, you know, I think that the brackets are coordinated with the window, the rhythm of the windows.
Right.
So I think that, you know, that does make sense. I think that it can be reduced. I mean, right now the existing one is 1'10". We changed that to 2 foot even. Because right now the proposed is 2'4".
With 11 inches of pitched copper.
Right.
Which, depending on how much you're building out, if you were to just simply to be adding to what's there, we're saying, the amount of copper that you need to add could be reduced based on just the geometry of how it falls on the front of the building.
You're saying add on to what is already existing.
For instance, if you were to add
Putting the copper on that.
yeah, if you were to make the existing cornice 6 inches taller by keeping what is there and adding, we'll say, another course of woodwork above it, then it will be the same height as what's proposed and your copper roof will be the same. But I don't know whether that's going to push it out further from the plane of the building, which is what would affect how tall your copper roof ends up being. Because it's this dimension is shorter than this. I have to believe.
Well, 2'4" versus 1.
No, sorry. The depth that it's coming off the building at this corner. I mean, it might, like, this depth I think is more deeper than this.
Except I don't think that, because that's the you know, the bow window that's at the corner.
Yeah, but look, this line goes straight up. This line goes straight up, and then you're adding this corbel, this bracket on top of it, plus the line above that, which is pulling this out further from the building, which is what's affecting the pitch of the copper roof.
Yeah.
It's the bulk that's being added to the front plane of the building, which is dictating the copper.
But if you took off the original one that is here, put that on, it's not gonna be that much bigger. From what I was looking at.
I mean, I don't think it's that much bigger, but it is bigger.
Well,
I mean, it's not dimensioned on these drawings, so I'm just basing it
I
on
mean,
how they
to
look.
some extent it is. I mean, because the 11-inch copper mini roof, if it's installed on the existing, would still be probably about 11 inches, give or take. Maybe 10, but I think that you'd have to have some pitch on that roof.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's to be a
Alright,
visible
so-
amount of copper either way.
So basically what we're talking about is we're comparing 1'10" to 2'4". And whether or not you have the brackets.
And how tight it gets to the second story windows. I think obviously on the existing, there's some space there, and the larger it gets, the more that space collapses, which is a proportional consideration.
Right. Do you
I
think
actually,
that's-
yeah, I mean, now that I'm able to see this a bit, I do think, like, I agree with what Sean said earlier. I don't have fundamentally a problem with this. I think it could benefit from the scale being reduced a little bit, what we're talking about now, but seeing the brackets line up, there's all sorts of precedent through time for things to be simplified and dressed up, as buildings change ownership, as buildings are renovated. You get certain shops that come in or leave and things can be altered. I'm not saying specifically in Cold Spring, but just all over the place, commercial buildings changing over time. I think dressing this building up a little bit with this, originally I had more of an issue with it, but it's starting to grow on me as relates to the distance between the window sills. I actually think it looks better in the proposed drawing than it does with so much space beneath the window to where the cornice starts. I know we're on the cornice right now. I'll just put a comment in there about the windows. Personally, the 6/6 don't bother me. I think I'd be okay with 2/2. The 6/6, it reminds me more of like Hudson House down by the river. It's got a mansard roof. Those windows have the divided light. I actually do think that the 6/6 are appropriate on this building with clapboard siding. But again, as it relates to the cornice, it has grown on me. I think if we could reduce the scale a little bit, I think that would be good. But like Sean said, I generally feel supportive of this.
So the existing asphalt roof on the existing cornice is flat. It's not pitched.
No, I think there's,
Okay.
I mean, it's not a real big pitch, but I
Right.
think there's.
But this copper roof would be more pitched
We're gonna have to plus
Properly.
for water,
for water. Yeah.
because even what's there, I don't think is really doing enough for the water.
Right. Okay. So I think something else to keep in mind then when we're looking at the existing addition drawing would be that were we to maintain a cornice of the size there is currently, there's still a necessity to add copper to it. So that, as Todd was saying, that proportion between the sills or between the deeper and the windows above, it's still going to be somewhat flex. But I actually agree with Todd. I mean, I think that the existing space between the cornice and those windows seems a little awkward, and maybe it's because that pitch is either not reflected on the drawings or it's been kind of compressed over time or whatever. But it does seem like there's a little bit of extra room down there.
Well, it could have been that when they added the asphalt and shingles, they just didn't take into consideration.
Pictures of this thing right now?
Well, just that one
No,
that we
that's
showed.
in the 70s.
Yeah, that's in the 70s. I think if you were to go through the Putnam History Museum around the corner, they may have some streetscapes that show it. I know there's a very prominent photo. I mean, the other really good place to look is in our grocery store. There's historic photos all over the place. That's where I always go first to know if the photo exists. I know that there are a lot of images of the building across the street. That's the Romeo and Juliet spot now, because that was a big dry goods store. So there may be in some of those images glimpses of this on the other side. But I can't say, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know if I've seen this.
Check the laser feed. I just very recently, not very recently enough, got access to that.
Oh, good. Okay. A functional link.
Yeah, I can't guarantee that there's anything in that for the text map, but
Okay.
So,
Can I take some quick low hanging fruit while we debate this, or is this, am I gonna get opposite?
Good question.
We talked last month, about the stained glass and just maintaining that in the, above the door, the front Main Street facade and the back facade. And then I'm, wondering about the railings. I know that there's currently railings to get out of one of these, storefronts.
Yeah,
The others-
truthfully, since we're here, what I would like to do, if I can even get them, is to have antique railings. Those railings are from the sixties or whatever. I'd like to get antique railings with posts to come down the steps, and it would be very aesthetic to look good for the building if I can order them. I don't know. Sometimes you can get them at places where they make new that looks just like the old. Like you'd see the old brownstones would have the old posts, and that's what I would like to do.
Maybe on that then, can we, since we're sort of breaking this up anyway for efficiency, can we just hold that? And if you find something, we'll discuss that next time?
What, the railings?
The railings.
I'm not coming back. What do you mean the next time? I'm not coming back.
We need time to shop.
Well, you'd have to have the
right?
railings
So-
approved in the future, so if you
Well,
were.
we can do the railings if you want. Otherwise, I'll leave the railing that's there, but I'm not coming back.
So we like hanging out.
Hmm? It's just, I can't come back.
Would you like to come talk to us?
Look, I love talking to you guys very much. But there comes a time
No, I realize that the project needs to proceed, but what we're saying is if
we're on our third time now, and I've already screwed up a lot of my contractors and everything. We're trying to get them to do stuff. So to me, if we can't come to terms with this, I'm just cutting my losses and walk.
Good progress. We've done the windows, the siding, the roofing. I think
Right.
we're getting really close on the cornice. We'll have that any minute now, right? And then the railings are just. I
The
don't know.
railings are
Well,
just a
well,
small added piece.
I mean, the railings, you've got, one,
It's actually,
2, 3, 4.
I can only put one on the one step
Well,
because there's a window down here where that metal piece is. That's an actual fire window for offices down bottom. So I gotta leave. I could maybe find another piece of antique iron fencing for that little section. But then there's only one railing there and the two railings on the other step.
Right, so whenever you decide what it is that you want to put in, then you'll just have to bring us a photo and we can approve it.
I'll do that. Okay. If I even find where they are.
I mean, you're gonna keep the railings, you need to have railings there now, so what's there now is.
They are staying there
Is
for now.
staying there until you are prepared to replace them, so whenever you're prepared to replace them. We'll take
Okay,
a
so I'll come back. I'll come back for the railings.
The railings aren't gonna hold up anything else that's happening on the project.
No.
But they also won't be reflected on.
Aesthetic in the end.
Right, and they won't reflect on the drawings that we approve in this session, so. They will need further approval.
okay, so, are we at least in agreement that the copper portion of the cornice needs to be added irrespective? Because the other thing is that if all you had were asphalt shingles, what kind of condition is that existing cornice?
Well, it's leaking. It's leaking in the one side, so I don't know how well the cornice is. That's there, but right now I have to do something with that top piece anyway.
Right. But I guess my concern as far as the existing cornice is that half of it may be run.
Right.
But we don't have any conditions, we don't have any. Photos or.
There's holes in it, but the thing is, I don't know, because it was leaking into the storefront from the cornice, but it's one section.
All right. So if we reduce the bottom portion to 2 foot, can we also reduce those brackets? It seems like it's a very powerful element.
Oh,
Well, it seems like they've already been reduced, they've already been scaled down once.
Okay,
And they
well, but if we could scale them down
No.
a little bit more.
I'm saying, I think I would be surprised if they could not be further.
Okay. All right. So I will make a motion for, as far as the cornice goes, that the proposed cornice is reduced from 2'4" to 2 foot. And the brackets, as they're located, are reduced in size. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, with that, Todd, your vote?
Aye.
Sean?
I will vote aye.
Warren?
I'm gonna vote nay. I know I'm the only one. So.
Okay. Kate?
Tell me why you're voting nay, just so I'm under.
I think, could one of the things we could do is just put like a copper cornice, the copper roof on top of the existing cornice, and then it isn't as high up, and you're not. Like, this is a nice profile on the existing cornice. It's changing a lot, so that would. I'm happy being the outlier on those, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I just seconded it because I feel like I'm trying to be a team player, but I would prefer what Lauren is proposing. So how do I fall on that? I'm okay with the new, but this is really the ideal to maintain the existing and just make it watertight with copper.
Okay,
I'm gonna
just
sorry.
to let you know, I'm gonna vote aye. That'll pass.
Okay.
So you can vote no.
Can I just abstain and just be in the middle on that one?
Sure. You can abstain. Okay, so it's approved. So the 2'4" changes to 2 foot.
And the brackets are scaled down appropriately.
I need electronic versions of it so that I can talk it out.
So you need them with the 2 foot and the scale down the brackets. Like I said, it still does not look right as I start to put it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Good night. Good night.
All right. What's next on the agenda?
Public comment. There is no public to comment. You guys have a round of minutes to vote on from July.
I don't have those drafted. I apologize.
No, with the July minutes from July 2nd, we couldn't vote on them last time because Lauren wasn't here. So Al, Lauren, and Kate can vote on the July minutes. And then the August minutes, we haven't seen yet. So we'll vote on those in October. Do you have are you saying that the July minutes also aren't drafted? Oh, okay. Never mind then. There's no minutes to vote on. I know it was on the agenda last month and I assumed we didn't do it just because Lauren wasn't here, but. All right, can I make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Second for that.
Yes.
By unanimous vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Hey.
Bye, Todd.
Bye.
Aye.
Okay, are we no